everybody, to TCS Everyday Psychics, or welcome back. My name is Sarah. You probably know that, and that's Karissa. You probably know that as well.
Hello, everybody.
We are back to do another reaction to a Missing 411 video. People seem to like it last time. We, of course, are very thankful to the channel that we got that content from. The name of that is Missing Persons Mysteries, and I believe we'll be doing another video from them. Additionally, the narrator in this video is a man named Steve Stockton. He's really cool. He's got a series of books about kind of like spooky stuff that happens in the woods, and we would definitely recommend you check that out because it's very interesting stuff. And we don't know what we're gonna find, but Karissa and I are both kind of obsessed with this subject.
Yep.
And we know that some of it might not be a reliable narrator, but the ones that are legit really fascinate us. So
Yeah,
we're
for
gonna just
sure.
dive in and see what we find.
Yep. Yep.
I told Karissa I was going to warn everybody if I start glitching in and out of the screen, it is not supernatural. It's my
Yep.
terrible old computer.
No earthies.
Okay, so we're about to start. We just want to once again thank the Missing Persons Mysteries channel for this very interesting and in-depth content. And let's watch the first one.
More strange and incredible as the disappearance itself. The earliest report of something like this happening is from August of 1897 and takes place in Massachusetts, Maine, United States. Now, this part of Maine is known for its extremely dense woods and forests and many lakes and streams running around and throughout. Again, be on the lookout for patterns here or parameters which are familiar to many of our other videos on this channel. I say this because this whole incident started with a 6-year-old little girl named Lillian Carney, who was out with her mother picking berries. Blueberries, as a matter of fact. The family wanted to spend a nice, relaxing day together in the woods of Mullen Bog. According to Lillian's parents, the girl had vanished from right under their noses. Now, while exact details aren't very clear this far in the future as to exactly how the girl went missing, her parents simply said she was seemingly there one minute and gone the very next. What started as a small preliminary search turned into more than 300 searchers, all calling out for the girl by name and looking through every known inch of the woods, all to no avail. Lillian was gone for almost 2 entire days and nights. After scouring and searching the entire forest and woods, 46 hours after her parents had reported her as missing, Lillian was found alive, just a couple of miles from where she had first disappeared. So, in all that time, she hadn't gotten very far. Why hadn't the over 300 searchers and professional rescue teams found her? I know in the 1800s they didn't have the technology or knowledge of forensics like we have today, but still, you'd think they'd have searched the area where Lillian ended up. She wasn't very mobile in the amount of time that she was missing. It's not as though she were walking around the entire time either. Around 10 o'clock in the morning on the second day of the search, a man named Bert Pollard found the missing girl. Despite immediately crying out for her mama, Lillian seemed healthy, happy, and even content when Bert found her. She was still holding the berries in her hand she had picked while in the presence of her family before she disappeared. Now, this is some 2 days later almost. Her father had just gotten done telling her that she must be careful, for some berries found in the woods could be harmful, even deadly and poisonous. The little girl was scared. Perhaps these fresh blueberries were some of those bad kinds, and while she dared not eat them, she didn't think to get rid of them for some reason. Yes, that's right, she carried around a handful of blueberries for 46 hours while lost in the woods and trying to find her way back to her parents. Lillian seemed absolutely fine and didn't have a scratch on her. When asked what had happened, had she wandered off? Why? Here is what the young girl had to say. Lillian, in a perfectly calm and matter-of-fact voice, informed everyone she was, quote, in a place where the sun was constantly shining, unquote. This was strange because she was missing for 46 hours. She'd gone missing during the daytime and was found in the morning as well. Therefore, she would have had to have experienced at least 2 nightfalls. It's just not possible for the sun to have shined the whole time. Obviously, the sun doesn't shine all day, but sets eventually. In addition to the sun apparently never setting in this place Lillian claims she was at the entire time she was missing, she also told people there were strange beings the size of her cat who she would keep away from her by clapping loudly. Allegedly, it would startle the being and, like a cat, it would run away. Some people wondered how she clapped while holding a handful of berries. Perhaps she laid them down, picked them back up again. We don't know that part of the story. But that does make this story even more bizarre. Why had she been so adamant to keep these fresh berries with her when she wasn't even sure if they were poison or not? It's a question no one thought to ask her, and therefore, unfortunately, we don't have an answer. While she said the beings she encountered were the size of her cat, and some sources even reported the girl saying the beings even resembled her cats as well. However, that one detail about what the creatures actually looked like has never been revealed. She was only 6, so some of it must have been hard for her to describe and put words to. She also said she had heard the searchers looking for her, but hadn't been able to at first clearly hear her name, so she didn't approach and actually hid, for fear they were vagrants or strangers. She only heard strangers yelling loudly in the woods, and her 6-year-old mind couldn't put 2 and 2 together to realize they were there to rescue her. It's unknown if Lillian even realized rescuing was something she was in need of. The girl seemed to be just fine where she was, at least in the first few minutes she was found. Once she finally heard them shouting her name, though, clearly, and was sure of it, only then did she show herself. The searchers and the authorities, of course, searched the area and the surrounding area where Lillian was eventually found, but they found no entities or creatures that looked like cats, and in fact, nothing strange at all. Night came and went as normally as did the day.
Okay, I got something very clear. I'm curious what you got.
Yeah. So I got that she was actually she wandered off on her own, but then she was taken. And then I also got that there were other kids who who didn't, it wasn't so there's another girl that popped in, and the girl was just like, oh, another girl, like a friend. And I can kind of picture Lillian like da 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 da, like she's on her little way strolling and wanders off. And mom didn't realize, of course. And then she meets the girl, and they carry on. And then I got that she was with people, and it wasn't like a malicious intent. At
Yeah.
first it did feel like that, but then it felt like it didn't. But I got a feeling that whomever she was with, they weren't all the way there. It wasn't
Yep.
people
Yep.
in their right mind.
Um, Interesting. I didn't get so much about who she was with or like who was behind it, but I pretty clearly got it has something to do with time.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I think we had something similar to this in the first missing 411 videos that we reacted to, but it's kind of like a place out of time. Like she was almost
Mm-hmm.
stuck in time. Like that's why the sun didn't set. And that's why she
Mm-hmm.
still had those berries and they were fresh in her hands. And that's why she seemed fine because to her, it probably didn't seem like that long. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm having trouble when I look into it whether this is some sort of like natural phenomenon or if it's something that maybe can be induced, you know?
Yeah. So I actually got I'm gonna go with induced, because I did again, people were not in their right state of mind. And there were others in this house. It was a family, but I got female. I didn't get male. I got mother. I got daughter. And I did get that initially they wanted to keep her.
Okay.
And so then there's different types of drugs that can induce,
Right.
you know, time not
Yeah.
happening or time,
Yeah.
And I think that when they began to hear her being called and that she was someone that
Right.
people were looking for, that is why she was
And did you
made
get
to
when
let
they were
go.
being called? To me, it was almost like they were in two separate places. Like
Hmm.
the
Yeah.
searchers were looking for her on the same terrain. She was on that terrain, but they weren't there at the same time or the same. I don't know. It
Hmm.
was like it was parallel almost. Like she could kind of hear them, but not quite. And it was to the
Yeah.
point. I think that maybe that accounts for why. And of course, this is in the 1800s. These details may have been muddled. We don't know, but we can only
Hmm.
go with what we have. And
Hmm.
I think it was almost like the reason why she maybe didn't immediately think, "Oh, I'm lost and they're calling for me," is because it was so kind of coming from far away almost. Like it
Hmm.
wasn't like they were immediate there.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I agree with you. I also got that it could potentially be the drug that,
Yeah.
how you're in that, well, I've never been, but you know how they say that you're in like this in between state.
Yes. Like
And
in almost.
yeah, exactly. That's what I'm feeling. It's not like a, hard,
Like
not one of
yeah,
those hard drugs, but like, um yeah, so like you're in that in between state and you can hear but you can't move.
right.
You can see but you're probably not seeing what
You're
you
not
think
really
you're seeing.
present. Like
Yes,
you don't have the
exactly.
presence of mind to be like, "Oh,
Hmm.
they're calling me. Of course they're calling me." Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
I have this I just had this thought, and I don't know, this is maybe my ego speaking, but is it possible that the people that she encountered that were maybe going to keep her, that maybe gave her whatever it was to keep her in this state, could they possibly have been victims of being stuck in this place, of wherever this place is it possible they stumbled upon it themselves, and
Hmm.
there's something really odd about them and I can't really wrap my
It's
mind.
odd. It is odd, and I say it's odd because I can tell that the state of mind is not fully there
Right, that's what I'm
with
wondering,
these.
like, are they
Hmm.
really even there?
Yeah.
Or is it possible to be all the way there in this place, wherever it is?
Hmm. Right.
These things are so foreign and unusual to like the natural laws that we are used to. I have a hard time kind of
Different. Yeah. Exactly.
differentiating, but this does follow a pattern of what we felt when we did the previous video.
Yeah.
Kind of,
Well,
like it was first of all super bizarre. We didn't know what the heck was going on. And
can't
then
even like fully put words into
right.
the
Like
images and the feeling
yes, exactly. And it's like
because that's
almost
yeah.
this sort of parallel, I don't want to say dimension, but like parallel space, this liminal space that is
Yeah.
not reachable all the time, maybe,
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
don't know. It's
And as we know, young children are in a more open
yes,
state already to
yes,
everything,
absolutely. And
and
that's another theme in these videos and these stories, really, that a lot of kids get taken, a lot of people who maybe are um, not like mentally all the way there or have some kind of disability or that kind of thing,
hmm,
that happens a lot, so
yeah,
that's very interesting.
definitely is, definitely is.
Well, I don't think we're
Um,
going to get any concrete
yeah,
answers here for Lillian, but
yeah,
The next case happened in Sweden in 1922. An 8-year-old boy named Austin Ingstrom left school with a friend, and instead of going straight home, the two young boys decided to go to a third friend's house, where there were many of their schoolmates just playing together, as 8-year-olds often do. When Austin had finished playing with his friends, it was around 3:30 p.m. and time for him to take the usual short and very familiar walk home. It was something he did so frequently, he said later that he could have done it with his eyes closed, and if the walk was any shorter, he just may have been able to. However, by 7:30 p.m., 4 hours after Austin was last seen leaving his friend's house to walk home, his parents started to worry. His mother sent his older brother Gustav to go and find him and bring him home. Gustav was able to track down some of Austin's classmates who he had been with earlier. The children told him they hadn't seen Austin since he had left alone at around 3:30 p.m. Gustav walked Austin's entire route home the same way he knew his brother would have gone, but found no sign at all that he had ever walked this direction. Gustav became very scared and very worried about his brother. He was deciding how he was going to break the news to his parents, especially his mother, about the fact that he wouldn't be bringing Austin home. He was thinking about this and who knows what else, I'm sure, as he walked into the house. He immediately noticed, however, that he didn't have to be sad or worried after all. His brother Austin was sitting there on the couch next to his mother, telling an extremely strange story about what had happened to him and where he had been for almost 5 hours. Other than shivering due to being extremely cold in temperature, Austin looked perfectly fine. Terrified, sure, but physically fine nonetheless. Now here's what 8-year-old Austin had to say about his almost disappearance. He says he was walking home when, for some unknown reason, he randomly, and for the first time in his life, decided to take a shortcut through the woods. He essentially felt the need to go through the deep woods and forest instead of staying on the clear trail, which he was so familiar with. He went on to explain that the entire woods had seemingly come alive, in his words, with all kinds of wildlife crawling out of the bushes and trees, just coming literally almost out of nowhere to scurry around in front of him in a seemingly playful manner, just to scamper off again just as quickly, and he says the skies grew suddenly dark. The day seemed overcast, but strangely it wasn't, as the sun was seemingly still shining so brightly down. It's like some veil had been thrown over the sunny day. What he described sounds like when storm clouds roll in, how the sky looks and how the air starts to feel. It was like that, only no storm was rolling in that day. Suddenly, he said he smelled something very gross and acrid, something unlike anything he'd ever smelled before. And he later went on to explain, quote, I looked up and noticed 3 gray objects hovering silently above me. They were so close, I could have thrown a stone at them. The objects were pulsating as if they were breathing, and I saw 2 dark lines on them. A bit further away, over the woods, another 2 objects were floating. They were bigger and darker than the ones above me, end quote. He apparently blacked out or passed out after he saw these pulsating objects both above him and in the distance. He claims the next thing he remembered was lying on the road in the pitch dark of night, not too far from his home. He was freezing cold and disoriented. When he relayed all this to his parents, they attributed his claim to his wild imagination. Gustav swore he had thoroughly searched the road and the exact spot even where Austin claimed to have been when he came to. Between the time he left his friend's house at 3:30 until he wandered home around 4 to 4.5 hours later, other than the objects he saw in the sky, Austin had absolutely no memory at all. Years later, Austin would be interviewed by some UFO researchers from Sweden, and here's what he explained to them all these years later. Quoting here, where was I during those hours? I estimate having been gone for around 4 to 4.5 hours. When I arrived home, I almost got beaten because they thought I was lying. They sent me to bed, and I was bedridden for 4 days. Probably I'd caught a cold while lying in the road. It looked as if the objects were pulsing simultaneously, all 3 of them, just like octopus functioning. They take in water and move by blowing it out. It looked like the objects used the same technique. They moved in a very elegant way, changed direction, and appeared to steer it with his pulsating. Where was I? Gustav cycled this way while I was lying there without seeing me. I've pondered this so many times. End quote.
I don't like that one. I don't like that one bit.
That one was weird. What'd you get?
I think he was purposely drawn into the woods.
Mm-hmm.
It was like seeing a magnet. And I think the reason his brother did not see him on the street is because he wasn't there yet. He was placed down there after. And I don't necessarily know if he went anywhere. I think he may have been in the woods that whole time, but what was happening to him during that, I'm getting like a fairly like a block almost, but not completely. Like I can,
Mhm.
I smelled that smell that was described. It was awful, and just really bad, like really, really cold, sort of not hateful, but like just indifferent feeling, like really
Mhm.
unsettling stuff. And I
Mhm.
think that the thing he saw with the animals in the woods or whatever, I think that was probably induced, like a hallucination that was induced
Mhm.
by
Mhm.
whatever was happening to him by being drawn there and being,
Yeah.
whatever, being, I don't want to use the word abducted. Maybe I should, but like,
Mhm.
I don't, because I don't think he went anywhere, but I think certainly something wanted him there for
Yeah.
your purposes. How about you?
Yeah. So I originally got, it took me to, okay, he's, yes, I agree. He was drawn into these woods, and then I see him zoom out. So that made me feel like he was in a state of confusion.
Hmm.
So I wrote down drug induced because that's what it
Yep.
feels like.
100%.
Um,
Yeah.
yes, so that altered his mind. He's in a confused state. He is seeing the woods come alive due to this induced state.
Hmm.
Um, and I also got a block, but
Yeah.
then I was able to see a little bit more. And what I saw was, or it's mostly the feeling. I couldn't see
Yep.
who did this. What I got was that it was done to him. Um,
100% agreed.
so I can't say that it was an alien abduction or that it
Right.
was a
Yeah. No idea.
bad person,
We're
but
not allowed to see that. I don't know why.
yeah, exactly. But it was done to him, and it was not of anything that he did wrong.
Okay.
And I agree with you that he was right. He stayed there the whole time. I do not get that he was taken anywhere. He was there. I will say what popped in is government. Now that doesn't mean that it was the government or a government
Right.
official. It just could be a symbol of someone in a high status
Yeah.
type of career. Um, just giving us that energy, that feeling
Not
of
necessarily government of Earth.
exactly.
Could be
And
the government of Mars. It would.
hey, exactly. But it's just it's allowing me to feel that it's a higher status type of individual or
So let me
being
ask,
or something.
when you got that feeling, was it kind of like that sort of unfeeling, like just kind of sterile,
Oh yeah,
like treating him
yes,
kind of like a lab rat almost?
yes, exactly. I don't feel that. Okay, I just got a little bit more.
Okay.
So I don't remember the year that they said, but what I
1922.
okay, and I don't know what was happening in 1922, but what I just got a feeling of is that um testing and crying um and again make I can't say if this was a person, but I
I know.
am kind of yeah, I'm kind of leaning that possibly, and it
It
might
could be
possibly be um
a person
so
with
I
maybe,
know
or it may be using something that we don't, that they shouldn't have,
I
you know?
feel like it was not a person. I feel like it was a people. We're gonna
Oh,
go with an experiment
I would agree with that completely. It's not one
that
person. This isn't some
yes,
creeper like in a white van
yes,
coming.
this isn't
Yeah.
it isn't that type of a situation. It's a situation to where so I got like I don't know if you or anyone has seen Stranger Things, but I have that type of feeling where it is um
Yeah. Yeah. I like that vibe.
yeah, like a sterile vibe
Yeah.
and high officials of some sort and um
And maybe they,
were they testing drugs? Who knows? I don't know, but
or
it's
maybe
something that
they discovered he wasn't what they needed. Maybe
yeah,
that's why he
hmm
was returned, you know?
yeah,
But I don't want to say returned because I don't think he went anywhere. And when, like, were they
yeah.
they testing there in the woods to see if there's something they can do from afar? I don't know. And I
Right.
don't think we're gonna know today.
No, but
Something
it's
very
something, yeah, something mind altering for
yes.
sure happened to him. And I feel for that man. And
Yeah, definitely.
I can't imagine that.
Because I think he probably does have those memories deep, 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 deep down.
Oh yeah. He
And
probably, and he may not even realize, there might have been
right.
nightmares,
Yeah,
you know?
I was gonna say, I think he dreams of this or did dream. I
Yeah.
don't think he's alive anymore. He'd be very
Hmm.
old, but
Right, right,
you
exactly.
know, uh,
Yeah.
it's really I don't the that one I really did not like the feeling that it gave me. I did not care for it. It was very unsettling to me.
Oh yeah. It felt like a movie of
It was like
what,
something amoral.
yeah, like,
It did not matter. The morality of this did not matter.
right, right, exactly. And it just keeps giving me the feeling of, um, oh, you know what? Ooh. Okay, so if this is, hmm. So in what was it, like the 50s and the 60s,
Mhm.
they would test people with LSD and
Yeah,
some of those
yeah,
other drugs. And what is it called that they did? They
like the MK Ultra thing you're talking about.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that thing. Um, it gives me that type of feeling. And again, I don't know if that's what they were doing, but I have that type of a feeling.
Yeah, I don't know if it's related, but I get the same feeling you do. And I also really
Yeah,
don't like it when I don't know about you, but the block I got there was something that I feel like is not natural. It's like,
a black was put so that people
yes,
cannot.
it was
Yeah,
a block put by people who know how. And that makes me very
exactly.
unsettled because if you know
Mhm.
how to do that, you really shouldn't be like randomly blocking other people who are trying to feel into something out, you know?
Mhm.
I
It's for
can't,
a reason. It's no that it's for a reason, and I feel like, okay, so now I'm getting a little bit more, and it's ooh, occult practices. How does that feel to you?
yes, I think that's the only way I
Hmm.
100% agree with you. I think that's how they learn to place a block like that in the first place.
Yeah, because it was
Um,
like a wall. I mean, it was
yes,
a wall,
I just
cement
literally
wall.
I saw a literal like concrete
Yeah,
wall. Like I could not go
yeah,
past it.
and
And
there's a difference if we don't have permission to look into something.
right,
That comes differently
right,
for myself. I can say, and it's not. It wasn't
absolutely.
that feeling. It was a block.
Because
Not allowed to see.
when it's something that like for whatever reason spirit or whoever doesn't we're not allowed to see. It's like just something that we can't see maybe yet or ever, at that point we
Hmm.
can't see it. It's almost like a gentle sort of no, you're not going to see anything past this, but
Yeah,
it's not like ominous. But this felt
yeah.
like keep the F out.
Oh yeah, yeah. And that keep out, that cement wall that I received,
Yeah.
it was a sterile wall. And that's
And
why I
it's
say, remember,
very
it's,
interesting that we saw the
yeah,
exact same thing because
yeah,
I saw exactly that as well, and that's
yeah,
unusual.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So, ooh,
Weird.
and that makes me feel like there are others out there.
Oh yeah,
Um,
there have to
and
be.
that, yeah, and if it's like that MK Ultra practice stuff, then that was
Yeah,
happening long before
it could be a
the 50s and the
precursor.
60s.
It
Yeah.
could be, yeah, who knows? But it does give that feeling for sure.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that's very, very unsettling.
Yeah.
Um,
That's,
yuck,
mhm.
yuck.
Yeah.
I feel
Ooh.
bad for that family, and it's just really
Oh
messed up.
gosh.
There's a reason we don't experiment on children, you know.
Right. And then he got in trouble for that.
I know. I
What
can't
the
imagine.
heck? Yeah.
It's
Oh
one thing
goodness.
where I will never to my kid be like, it's just your imagination, because
Oh
that's so
no.
like dismissive.
I was told that as a kid,
I know, me
but
too.
it was as a way to like not scare me, right? Like, that's just your imagination, go to bed.
Right,
No, there's
right,
things that are in my
right.
ear and
I know,
torturing me at night. I can't
I
sleep. I'm
know.
running in your bed,
There's
mother.
genuinely something under my bed.
Right, exactly.
Sometimes my
There.
mom will kind of look at me and like look again and be like, "It's just your imagination," and then kind of like scurry out.
Yeah, right. Like, yep, exactly.
Oh my gosh! All right.
Oh, okay.
These types of phenomena take place throughout every country and across every culture. The next alleged true tale takes place in Ethiopia in the 1960s. There was a 9-year-old boy who is unknown, so we'll just call him Joe. Joe from Ethiopia. I know. So, anyways, Joe and a friend of his named Gabriel were playing in the backyard of his home. It's worth mentioning here that the whole yard was fenced in. As the boys were talking around and doing whatever little boys do, Joe says he turned for a split second to shoo away a fly, and when he turned back to Gabriel, he was gone. Allegedly, though, and let me set the scene for you, Joe and Gabriel belonged to the 1% of Ethiopians at the time who were the ruling elite, the 1% who were wealthy. Joe's father was the Minister of the Interior, and Gabriel's dad was supposedly a 4-star general in the Ethiopian army. Allegedly, the backyard from which Gabriel disappeared from was surrounded by brick walls that were 10 feet tall. Armed guards patrolled outside of these walls and the fence as well. So where did Gabriel go? This was big news. The disappearance of a high-ranking general's kid, especially in a place like Ethiopia in the 1960s, everyone thought it was going to end up being a political kidnapping. Remember, both kids' parents were very high-ranking, wealthy, and important members of society. Gabriel was gone without a trace for 6 whole months. The investigation into his disappearance turned up nothing that entire time, and literally never went anywhere. What kind of leads could you possibly have with a kid who was there 1 second and gone the next? Joe stuck to his story because he alleged it was the truth, and we all know, especially in this community, the truth doesn't change. A little after the 6-month mark of the day Gabriel simply disappeared, he returned. Actually, he returned just as quickly and seemingly out of nowhere as he had originally vanished. One day, he was just there. He was simply standing in almost the same exact spot in the backyard from which he had vanished that day while playing with Joe. Upon reappearing, Gabriel was dazed and confused. Once that it was confirmed that he was physically okay and unharmed, everyone started asking him where he'd been and what had really happened to him. This is where the whole thing gets so much more unbelievable and a bit fantastical, at least to some people. Gabriel claimed he had been taken on a trip by some nice men. He stated he was in a bright, all-white room with hundreds of other kids, all playing and talking excitedly, just as confused as Gabriel was about where they were and most likely how they got there. He said there were so many children, all from different countries. The nice men who, according to Gabriel, had been the ones to take him on this trip had been Caucasian. He explained how surprised he was when he realized they spoke Ethiopian as fluently as he did. He also said he could understand the other children, even though they appeared to be different nationalities. It was like, although nobody spoke the same language, they could still all understand each other somehow. The white glowing room he was brought to and kept in had no windows, and the doors seemed to blend into the walls. Essentially, there was no way out. There were buttons on the walls for all different things. If he pressed the button for a bed would come right down out of the wall for him to sleep on. He told of how one moment he was in this white room, and the next he was standing in the center of a huge city. He had no clue how he'd ended up there. Kind of like how he ended up being transported somehow from the backyard to the room in the first place. He said the city was glowing and sparkling, immaculately clean. There were other people there who looked strange like us, but different, he says. Us meaning humans, I suppose. One of the nice Caucasian men stayed with him and took him to a very tall building where he had to stay in another room for a while. However, Gabriel stated that room was fun. It was an entertainment room, which had the same buttons as the first room he was teleported to, allegedly, but these buttons allowed him to travel to other places. Example, one button brought him to a beach, the other a desert, yet another a mountain. Though he was always alone and always contained in the room while somehow simultaneously traveling to these places. Again, he instinctively knew he couldn't leave if he'd wanted to. He claimed the room could even fly. After staying in this room for what he thought was only a few hours, he was back in Joe's backyard in Ethiopia again.
I didn't get very much valuable information from looking into that. It may just be me. I don't think if anything happened, it wasn't that. Either that was something that was like overlaid on a real experience that this kid had and that he came back thinking that, or it was made up, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I also get the feeling that like the details of that story that we are hearing are not the right ones. That
Right.
we don't have enough like actual concrete information that is legit to latch onto in that story to really feel into what's good happening there. What do you think?
Yeah. So I had a really hard time picking up anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
What I did hear, the only thing that I heard two things. The first thing that I heard was split, the word split. Okay.
Split. Okay.
So I tried to lean into more of what that could be and nothing. And
Yeah.
so then I was hearing, like the hospital monitors, like, dude,
Yeah.
like, to monitor us. And then I was like, is he in the hospital? Like, what's going on? And I'm not able to see anything. And so
Yeah.
I have to agree with you that uh
Yeah.
I don't like to say that because
I hate to be dismissive of people's stories. And
yeah,
especially this one when it's so long ago in a different country, we don't know how
right,
many iterations this has gone through to reach us in the form that it has. So
exactly,
something
exactly,
genuinely may have happened to this kid, but did he disappear in a split second in a 10-foot? Like it's just convenient, right? Like,
right,
but it was a
yeah,
10-foot wall. What could have happened? And then, this like
hmm,
right out of a sci-fi movie, this kind of and
yeah,
it is a movie where people are shown like a big glittering city, Um,
right, right,
so while something may have happened, I maintain that we don't have enough actual concrete facts to hang our psychic hats on to look any further into
yeah,
it. You know,
yeah,
um,
exactly.
at least for me, I need at least some details to be able to kind of ground myself to where I'm looking. You know,
Uh, so mine could be um I've had different experiences, so I can't say for sure what I need. But what I can
yes, that's
say
true.
is
Yeah,
what
that's
I
true.
can say is this is not a I'm not able to look into this to give a
Yeah,
clear
and
answer. I can't even really give a feeling. I only have those two things that popped in.
like
And that leads me to believe that there may be something mentally wrong
right,
with an individual. Um
like
and I'm
it's kind of like a scrambled feeling almost.
yeah. So
Um,
split. So we know what split
okay,
means
split. You're right.
when
Yeah,
we say that word, we kind of know what that means, and
yeah,
that's kind of
true.
not all the way there, not all the way present.
Right. Yeah,
Uh,
true. And this person may genuinely believe something like this happened. I'm not calling this kid a liar, but like,
mhm.
yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I take back. I mean, sometimes I will get information out of nowhere.
Yeah,
But when I'm like intentionally looking into something, I do have to have like something to kind of hang my hat on to like look a little
and
further.
but but also if it's a false story, whether it's deliberately false or
Right.
the
Right.
the story got a little bit, the
Or
game of
it's like a
telephone.
delusion or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And I think even if it's an illusion, we would be able to tell that. But if it's a story where it could have started off as a true story, but
Right.
then as it goes on to all these different people, it's the game of telephone, and so
That's what I got.
much
Is
of
the
much of the
word.
story is no longer there. So how
Yeah.
could we look into it? You know what I mean?
I 100% agree. Yeah.
Yeah. And with this, I did not get a block. I just didn't get
No,
anything
no.
except those two things that I mentioned.
The feeling that either I'm not looking in the right place here,
Hmm.
or this is not what we're being told. That again, I do
Yeah.
think it was a telephone situation where, it, like this story that we are being told is so apart, separate and apart from
Right.
anything that may have actually happened there.
Yep. And so I even tried to lean into the family because the family was like,
Like public, yeah.
yeah, I couldn't even get in. I couldn't even get that.
No, to me, it felt like reading a newspaper story that got written up way too quickly after something happened, and the details aren't right,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
it's
Hmm.
not, it hadn't been fact checked, that kind of thing. And I'm not
Yeah.
saying like whoever published this story or whatever didn't fact check it. I just feel like it was never true, ever
Right.
from the
Yeah.
beginning, you know. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah. There's really not much more I think we can really say about that one.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd
Um,
have to agree.
on that note, I think we are gonna cut off the stories there. as I said, Chris and I are kind of obsessed with like weird, maybe not necessarily like ghosty stuff, but like kind of
Hmm.
weird, unexplainable,
Yeah.
um, you know, people went missing or anything that's really has like kind of a spooky, but like,
Yeah. Mysterious
yes,
phenomena,
mysterious phenomena, that kind of thing.
unexplained. Yeah.
So if anybody has anything they'd like to suggest along those lines, we would be happy to react to it, to look into it in another video for sure.
Yeah.
Um, we like the missing ones, but missing, for me at least, missing people are really hard to look into, like really,
Yeah.
really difficult.
Yep.
And
Yep.
some of these have been pretty clear where we've both gotten like a lot of detail, but it's really hard to tell sometimes what's going on in some of these cases where, particularly when the person doesn't come back, those are really
Yeah.
hard.
Yep. And a lot of times we're not allowed to see
Yeah,
some of these
because
things
that's
because
someone
it's their
else's,
own journey. Yeah.
yeah, their family's journey, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so those,
Just
and
don't
like,
have the permission.
yeah, basically it's very hard to do that. And like that's kind of the block we were talking about earlier, where it's not necessarily like a negative block. It's just like, hey, move away, you
Yeah.
can't do this kind of thing.
Yep. For us, spirit tells us when we are not allowed to see something. It's very clear in that way.
Right.
Compared to the other story where it was just like it showed a wall, a
I mean,
cement
that was
wall.
that was artificial, it felt to me.
Yeah,
That was like an artificial wall that
exactly.
was placed there. That's not,
Yep. It
whereas,
wasn't spiritual. It wasn't one of
yeah,
our guides. Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Yeah, and that one, of all the stories we've looked into, that was the most like blatantly creepy to me, because I was like, why is that
Yeah.
there? Who put that there? And
Yeah,
how did they know how to
exactly.
do that?
Exactly. Exactly. And I think for that type of situation, it might be a good idea to let Mari-Lyn and Pam know, just so there's not anything,
Yeah,
because you never know.
yeah. Maybe we accidentally like discovered the government's remote viewing program or
Right.
something. I don't know.
Right. I know.
But yeah,
Um,
so we're always
uh,
looking for that kind of thing.
yep, exactly.
We have a lot of good ideas along the lines of spooky, unexplainable, and we're gonna try and get them to be a little bit more regular. So
Hmm. Hmm.
we welcome your
Yep.
suggestions.
Yep.
And thank you so much for watching.
Yeah,
Thank
for
you
sure.
again to Missing Persons Mysteries for your excellent content that we can react to. Um, and yeah, we hope that you would subscribe if you haven't already, and maybe leave a like or a comment. It's always helpful to a
Yep.
growing channel.
Yep.
Yeah, Karissa, you got
Until
anything?
next time.
Okay, there you go. Until next time.
Yep.
All right, we'll see you guys next time.
All right. Bye.
Bye.